Welcome to the Next. I'm the host, Jason Jacobs. This show sorts through the nuances of athlete development, specifically focused on youth sports. I'm coming at it from the angle of a founder who's potentially building my next company in youth sports, specifically focused on athlete development and building a digital platform that helps kids and families navigate that journey. But I'm also coming at it from the perspective of a sports dad. It's hard to be a sports parent these days. There's plenty of areas that are black and white that are easy. There's a right and there's a wrong, but there's a ton of gray area, and sorting through that nuance is hard. This show is an interview style show where I bring on a couple of guests each week that are experts, that are well placed, and I am inquisitive, ask a ton of questions, and try to inform my worldview on these topics and help listeners to inform your worldviews as well. Today's guest is Brian Collins. Now, Brian is an interesting one. He played his high school hockey at St. John's, Shrewsbury, and as senior captain in 1999, which dates him, but he led all Massachusetts in scoring with 38 goals and 35 assists. And in the Division I state final against Springfield Cathedral, he scored 4 goals in their 5-1 win. And he then spent 4 years at BU, so no prep school, no reclassing, no juniors, no any of that, just went to BU, so kind of a path that almost doesn't exist anymore, and played 4 years there, was assistant captain his senior year, scored almost 100 points during his tenure. And a couple fun facts on Brian. One, he scored his first collegiate goal on his first shot, and he also helped lead the Terriers to 3 Beanpot titles in his 4 years. Played a few years of pro after, and then he got an office job. He works in real estate now and has been ever since, but he also coaches his little guys. He's got I think it's a 2017 on the Junior Eagles, and also 2019 in the development program for the Junior Eagles, and he coaches both of them. So plenty to talk about here on Brian's journey in the sport as a player and his path. We talk about what it's like today and what's different from when Brian and I were coming up in the game. We talk about coaching and his philosophies as a coach and what he learned as a player that's relevant to that. And we also talk about just the state of the game and the path forwards. It's a great one, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, Brian Collins, welcome to the show.
Jason, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be chatting today.
I didn't ask you before we got going, but have you done a podcast before?
I have never done a podcast before. I've listened to far too many in the last 5 years, though, on far too many topics.
Do you listen to much of the hockey ones?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed the Hockey Think Tank. That's a pretty good one.
I've been enjoying that one too. Yeah, I've never met Topher, but I'm planning on cold emailing him at some point because he sounds awesome.
I enjoy that one. Obviously, I enjoy the Rink Shrinks.
I like that one too. And those guys are local, right?
I know those guys both from many years ago, Mike Motto and Brian Yandel. And then, of course, everyone loves Chicklets. And I played with Ryan Whitney for a couple of years at BU and knew him from even before BU, so I always enjoyed.
He's still local too, I think.
You know, he lives in Milton. I've been chatting with him occasionally about hockey. He's into this crazy world as well, too.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. You know, as you know, we both met through my brother, who is a good friend of yours and who I don't have a choice about being related to. But yeah, I grew up, like, I was such a BU hockey fanboy growing up, and my brother told me that, you know, one of his good friends played BU hockey, and I was like, that's not possible, because have you met yourself? But
hold on, you're saying he wouldn't have friends, or you're saying he wouldn't have
cool friends?
A friend that
cool friends.
Play. Okay, yeah, not that. Yeah, just because you play doesn't mean you're cool.
But yeah, I got to know you when your kids were too little to play, and then my oldest is a little older, and so I became a crazy hockey dad first. And what I heard anecdotally through Josh was that you were like, whoa, like, he sounds like a crazy hockey dad. Whereas I feel like once your kids got to be the age, like, you have not only caught up, but surpassed me.
I don't know about that, but yeah, well, I think Josh, I no comment on that. But even, you know, like I said, your brother, I think, what was it, a lot of like little birthday parties we originally met at.
Yeah, yeah. When the kids were little, and now time goes by so quick. I mean,
Yeah,
they're still little, but not nearly as little as they used to be.
yeah, and so yeah, your brother, yeah, he was the first. Him and his wife, good friends of ours, the first people we met in Needham, and even the last couple of years, done a little coaching with Josh, and he keeps it. One, I respect anyone that's always out there volunteering, helping kids, but Josh always kept it light. Even a couple of years ago, when we first got out there, no one knew his name, but he had a wood Sherwood stick, possibly from high school, so we just called him the guy with the wood stick.
No, I love torching my brother as much as anyone, but like he's great, and it's all in jest.
Yeah,
So
yes, no, like I said, I love him.
yeah. But at any rate, great to have you on the show. While I've known you for a while, I've never actually heard the story, and I've been doing a little prep. And gosh, I mean, you had, I think, a zillion points your senior year of high school. You were a public school kid that went straight to BU, no juniors, no reclassing, no billeting, no like any of that stuff. You had a great career at BU, assistant captain, several years in the pros, injuries, concussions. Had to hang him up. But now you're coaching two of the Eagles teams for the little guys, and so it'd be great to dive into your journey, but also fascinating, I think, to then turn to what you're going to do the same as your parents did, and maybe how you're going to do it different, and also just how the landscape of development has changed for now versus when you were coming up.
Yeah, no, I mean that's yeah, I mean I can get going on all that, but even when I look back my story or my path that was fortunate enough to end up playing at BU, drafted, didn't play as long as I would have liked or, I dreamed of doing, but it was still an amazing ride and amazing experience, met some amazing
You
people.
made it a lot further than most.
Yeah, it is what it is with how it ends. It always, no matter who you are, it never ends exactly how you would like to. And I think the old adage is we all end up at men's league. Some of us just get there sooner than others. But even like my story, I grew up in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I played Shrewsbury youth hockey all the way through until I was a Banter minor. My dad
Yeah, I
always,
feel like that doesn't happen now.
and
I mean, it happens, but it doesn't happen for anyone that's going to end up playing at BU.
yeah, it doesn't. It's kind of a different. It was. I mean, again, not that I feel old or not that we're old, but it was almost like a different time where, yeah, I had opportunities to play on the local, MBHL, which is now the Fed team, the Flames, and I think at the time my parents were probably just like, no, like you're playing Shrewsbury youth hockey, you're skating a couple times a week. Like my dad coached me. It was
Wait, but can we go back for a sec? Did your dad play?
My dad was one of seven from around here, and probably during that era, a lot of a lot of those people that grew up, they were big Bruins fans, and he played I think men's league when he was older, and did a lot of pond skating with his siblings growing up, but didn't play like organized hockey growing up, but always knew the game well enough to coach me.
So how'd you get into it?
They always tell the story that I'm a September birthday, so I couldn't go to kindergarten. I missed the cutoff, and like this one shock you. I was a pretty active kid, and they're like, "Well, we need something for him to do," and I was 4 years old, and they're like, "All right, let's try hockey," and pretty much from 4 years old to probably 26 when I stopped playing. It was the only thing I ever really thought about, ever wanted to do. Yeah, it was pretty much like my life. And, enjoyed every minute of it. Probably by the end, I was like, I think I'm good. Let's try something else here with like injuries and multiple professional teams. But it was, it was an amazing experience from start to end. But like I said, I started at Shrewsbury Youth Hockey, did that all the way through till I was a Bantam. And then I played on the Minuteman Flames for, I think I ended up doing 2 years there. But, even when I look back at just how it's all evolved, kids today are already playing on all these, club teams. Like very few kids do the town stuff all the way through. My entire hockey career, up until I played varsity hockey. I was lucky enough varsity hockey my 8th grade year at Shrewsbury High School, where there was a nuance where at the time in Shrewsbury, the 8th grade was in the high school. So you were able to play high school sports. And even when I look back, that was I 14 maybe? And that was the first time in my life that I'd ever skated more than twice a week. So my entire, childhood growing up, it was one practice, 1 or 2 games from like, let's just say September, October to April. Bags went away, maybe one hockey camp, maybe probably 1 week of hockey camp during the summer, just a lot of baseball, and then back at it September, October. I didn't start playing in the summer until I was 15 years old, and I started, getting introduced to the USA hockey stuff. I did the Massachusetts 15, 16, 17 festivals, for Team Massachusetts, but that was really my first experience ever playing in the summer, where now today kids, I think everyone kind of skates for the most part year round. I think.
And not only that, like they'll do like if they have practice at night, it's like, oh, maybe you can sneak in, some edge work in the morning before school on the same day. It's like that.
I'm not in that camp. I know some people are. I'm not gonna comment on that, but yeah, I'm still of the mindset where it's like, yeah, you got your, the way I sort of do with my boys is like, one of them is 6, one's 8. It's like, hey, you have your practice, you're going to go to your practice. We don't need 2 practices. It's always, you get that hour and you want to focus on that hour, and more isn't always better, is sort of my opinion.
Does your daughter play?
My daughter plays as well, too. So my daughter plays, she's 10. She plays Needham girls, and you'll actually laugh at this. My wife coaches the Needham youth hockey girls team. My wife.
Did she play growing up?
She didn't play growing up. And it was maybe like last year, my daughter, no, she likes it. Like, she doesn't love it. She's like the jack of all trades. She does probably 10 different activities. Hockey's one of them. She is very social, so she loves the social aspect of it. And it was a girls' team. And I said to my wife, I'm like, it might be a good opportunity for you to coach Nora's team. And I'd coach some of her other teams. And, I think with the girls, not that I fully understand that landscape, but it gets to a point where you kind of want women coaching the girls. I said, this could be, a good experience for you two to spend some time together. And, this upcoming season, my wife's the head coach, and like, I'm going to make as many practices as I can to sort of help my wife, like, set up the practices and structure it, even though my wife's far smarter, far more organized, and, probably in 6 months from now, she'll be a better coach than I am.
Well, that's one of, in addition to all the changes on the boys' side, one of the biggest changes I've seen with the game is just like, look at the girls. Like, they're nasty.
Yeah, no, I think, it is amazing. I think any of these kids today, they're on the ice a lot. They're doing a lot of stuff, and they're all like, I think everyone skates better than the people of my era. I mean, the trend that I sort of see from, listening to people, talking to people, and even starting to see myself is like, all right, like, where's their hockey sense versus the players of 25 years ago? And that's what's, like I said, as I'm getting going, coaching, like, that's going to be interesting to, to sort of watch develop.
So when you were coming up and you were doing a practice a week and 1 or 2 games, what happened the rest of the week?
So probably growing, like, I played, again, guys of my generation that did like a lot of street hockey. Like, I was fortunate enough to grow up on my house was on a circle. And
wait, funny story there. On your BU bio, which is still up there from back when you played.
Wow,
it didn't just list your parents' name and what town you're from. It listed your street. It's like,
we don't do that today, do they? So I played hours and hours and hours of street hockey and like rollerblade hockey. And I had a really, really, really good group of buddies growing up that, like, everyone was athletic. Everyone played, like, we all played baseball, hockey. There was just, and even one of the guys that I grew up with and ended up playing with in high school, like, he ended up playing Merrimack, Tim Reedy. Like, and when you look back, it's like, oh, wow, 2 kids that used to play street hockey, that both ended up playing in Hockey East, pretty impressive. But just, played Little League from April to July. And with those same kids, it might be like, all right, come over. Like, we're gonna play baseball in my backyard, and then we're gonna go play street hockey for an hour or 2. And it was just a lot of that stuff growing up.
it's funny. You hear now, it's like, what are the kids missing? It's like they're missing free play. They're missing just going out with no pressure and being creative and trying stuff. And like, they should just be playing more street hockey. And it's like, and so the first the first place that our overscheduled brains go is like, well, how do we schedule in more unscheduled time, right? Because it's sad. Like, and I've talked about this in prior episodes with guests too. It's like I grew up the same. It was like you look out the window and you didn't have to schedule anything because if you had downtime, it wasn't downtime. You just look out the window and there's a zillion kids playing something outside, and there was always street hockey nets out there, or baseball, or tennis, or bikes, or mopeds, or whatever. It was like, there was always something to do. And like that infrastructure doesn't exist because everyone's so overscheduled. So it's like, and the phones do exist. So it's like, all right, sure, I want my kid to go play in the neighborhood, but there'll be no one out there and he'll still have his phone. So like,
I mean, nothing, and, even one of the activities like in the fall, like a lot of the kids now are into is like, there's like flag football leagues everywhere. And I kind of laugh at that one. Like that used to, like growing up, all that is just kids playing like touch football, which when we were growing up, like you would just grab the kids in the neighborhood, but like not now. It's like a big league with like dad's coaching and like calling plays.
You can't even show up to the field because it's like, no, this field needs to be booked if you want it for recreational use.
Even like that one, like my 8-year-old and 6-year-old both do that, and that's like September and October. But of course, like hockey season is like full on by Labor Day, so like they'll, it's like a 6 to 8 week season. We'll make 3 or 4 of them, and even when my wife and I like sit down in the fall and start thinking about like the schedule, she's like, "Oh my God, that's another activity." I'm like, "Well, that's not an activity. They're gonna go play flag football 3 times out of 8 if they don't have hockey." And all that is, you're just playing outside with your friends. It's just, it's just packaged up in a nicer bow in 2025 than it would have been in like 1992. And it's just, I think to your point, it's just sort of, that's all it is everyone's schedule. I don't get this, and this. And it's just, it's just the world we live in.
I mean, all the scheduling and all this kind of sliding down, it's almost like the BU standard slid down to the 7-year-olds kind of thing, right? And does that lead to better athletes? What does that lead to?
I mean, we're gonna find out. I think here in, I mean, like when I played at BU, I think pretty sure like half the team were Massachusetts guys, right? Like I don't know. I'd have to like this coming year, I'd have to look at the roster and see how many.
I scanned it and I was like, wait a minute. All these guys are still involved in Massachusetts hockey. Like, this is crazy. Like, I recognize so many of the names on that roster.
Yes, I mean, a lot of us grew up here, and then, we're fortunate enough to play at BU. And, again, I don't know the exact makeup of their, like, coming season, but I'm pretty sure, like, in the last handful of years, it wasn't, like, half. Just be like,
I was talking about your roster.
Oh, my roster was, my roster. Yeah, I mean, my roster, like, 25 years ago, like, half to 3/4 of the team were, like, local guys. And I think, like.
And they're all the coaches. They're all now the coaches now in the club.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is a lot of guys that, all had kids around the same time. And, it's nice for me to pick brains of some of the guys I played with that have older kids that have sort of seen what it looks like as the kids get older.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you now. They're coming from anywhere, and especially now with some of those rule changes in Canada, right? I mean,
yeah, I think again, I have no idea, but it's going to be fascinating to see what happens to, prep school hockey here and just different things like that, where kids can now go to the Quebec League, they can go to the USHL. Like, there's just 3 kids that just made the U.S. national team. The really good players are going to have far more options, and you can go do 2 years in the Quebec League or 2 years in the USHL, and you can step right. If you can play there, you can play in college, where it doesn't seem like there's many kids that are not even like the public-private that are like it seems like those kids really can't jump to like a Division I school from there. And then now even the prep school, it seems like the really good ones are doing like something else before they show up at, XYZ school in Hockey East.
Yeah, I ran into one of your old teammates. I'm not going to say his name because I don't have his permission to mention it wasn't anything sensitive, but he just said it. He didn't say it to me like it was going to be broadcast, but he was saying how he thinks that because the best prep school kids are leaving, that it's going to create more of a gap of talent in prep school, and that the prep school is going to get younger and not force the kids to reclass 1 or even 2 times by the time they graduate high school.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't really fully know that world, but I would imagine that that's like the really, really good players still might do a little bit of time there. And if you make the U.S. national team, like you're going to go do it. You're not going to turn that down. If you're a junior and you're drafted in the second round of the Quebec League, or you're probably going to go to Quebec for 2 years and then try to go play in Hockey East.
So people talk a lot about how privatization has ruined the sport and it's a path to burnout and it's a path to specialization too early and it's a path to lack of overall athleticism and lack of hockey IQ. At the same time, I feel like every generation longs for the generation, for what they had growing up and complains about the state of where things are now. As someone who came up in the game and is now living the state of the game now with your kids, how do you think about the state of the state and the pros and the cons of where we are versus when you were coming up?
I mean, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it seems like it's far like the numbers of kids getting drafted. Even I think the NHL draft is tonight. 26 years ago, I was drafted. Again, I didn't play in the NHL, but I was
Third round, right?
yeah, I was a third round pick. I was 87th overall, and I think there might have been 3 or 4 kids from Massachusetts that were before me. 3 or 4 kids from Massachusetts, maybe more, that went after me. So there might have been like 10 kids from Massachusetts that were drafted. And again, that doesn't mean you're going to play in the NHL. And even of those 10, like maybe only 1 or 2 got games. Again, that was even a different era then. And I would guess there aren't going to be 10 Massachusetts kids drafted tonight. Yeah, I mean, I think it was back to when they said I don't necessarily always feel that like more is better and more equals playing at that XYZ level. I think a lot of it is just I think the people involved and the people coaching these teams just need to be, smart with how they're designing a practice or how they're thinking about it. And, as you're saying, like with the privatization, professionalization of sports, like, everyone wants to win, but these kids are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, 11 years, like it doesn't matter. Like I'd rather coach like an Eagles team for the next 7 years and 14 kids. And, again, some of the kids might be like, I want to play football or baseball or whatever their chosen sport is. And, I'd love to see 10 of them play prep school hockey. Like, I'm not going to remember whether we at 8 went 35-3 and people were like, oh, wow, like, look at that team. That's a wagon. It's not what's really important. You want to see the kids like to me, if they're like having fun and they're improving every year, like that's like all you can ask for. And that's, that should be the goal.
Yeah. I mean, one of the tensions that I see is it feels like from the club standpoint that the clubs feel like if they win, then they're more sought after and they're more sought after and they get better players. And if they get better players, then it's self-reinforcing. And then they build a stronger brand and there's more money to be made, right? And at the same time, from the from the kids standpoint, right? Like people develop at different rates and puberty comes at different times and people's athleticism pops at different times and they might go through slumps and things like that. And it seems like, and granted, of course there's exceptions, but a lot of these clubs, they're not really developing, right? It's like they'll just take the best that they've got, and if the kids in the family are fending for development for themselves, and then at the end of each year, they'll just cut from the bottom and try to bring in at the top and try to win, right? And there's also just a lot more transiency, if that's a word, right? Where like it used to be, your team was your team because you played on your town, and it was all about development because you have who you have. Whereas now everyone's moving around and everyone's kind of jockeying for a better position and like it seems like in a way there's just no continuity to development anywhere.
Yeah, no, I've definitely started to notice that where I think there's naturally changes on any sports team from like 7 to whatever. I mean, you're even seeing some of that obviously with the portal and college, and which wasn't even around 25 years ago, obviously. But, I think my philosophy is, and the guys that I coach with is you want to be able to get a core group of kids, and hopefully you're coaching them that particular group for, the 7, 8, 9 years. I just think even it starts young where it's like, oh, wow, like that's not a good situation. Like we're not winning or this isn't happening. Or then you jump to one team. And then before you know it, you're on another team. And then before you know it, on another team. And I think when I look back at my career, one of the greatest things was all the friends I made from doing it. If you're jumping from team to team from a young age, I mean, how, what kind of relationships are you really forming along the way, which, I think is, one of the best gifts you can give your kid from playing hockey is just sort of friends they make.
But I mean, you're coaching in historically one of the strongest programs, and granted, it depends on birth year and all
Yeah.
that. But like year after year, right? The Eagles are a top program, and there's a lot of pressure on kids and families to keep up to stay on the train, and not everyone does over time. And I think that's what pushes people to do more and more and more, and to be year round and stuff, because they feel like the train's going to leave the station with or without them, and if they want to stay on the train, they have to kick real hard to try to keep up. What are your thoughts on that generally, and also how you're navigating that with your own kids?
Yeah, so I think the one thing that I noticed, being back to where it used to be April, like I'm done, everyone plays baseball, and like I'll see you in September, October. Yeah, I mean, if you think about that, from April to September, if someone feels like it, which some people do, you can almost take down another season worth of skating from April to September. Now, a lot of people do that. Sort of the way I handled it with my kids is, and 6 and 8, pretty much just like a couple day camps. They did a 3-on-3 league. They did, and they're going to do probably some like drop in skill sessions with like one of my former teammates, Freddie Myers. So I do have, my kids skate far more than I ever did, but they probably end up hitting maybe third or half of what some kids do. And again, I think that's to each his own and whatnot. And what I hope to do is still like with them, season ends like March, April, it goes away, right? You might don't touch the ice for like a month or so. Get into your baseball, play some baseball. They both played baseball for the first time this year and both really enjoyed it. But like the difference would be like, which I did this year was like, all right, like we're gonna do 6 weeks of 3-on-3 on a Sunday night, right? So, you still get that hour of skate once a week, and I'm let's do 2 to 3 spring tournaments, versus again, some people might do 10. What does that look like 2 to 3 years from now? I don't know. Like, are my kids going to be behind because they didn't do 10 tournaments? Like, I don't think so, but they might be. I mean, I think sort of the way I look at it is it's just like such a marathon, and there's just no need to sort of rush the development. You can't rush it. I think you just got to stay consistent with like, or just listen to the kid. I mean, I think that does determine or drive like how much you can really put them on the ice. But I am a believer of doing like, hey, it's baseball season. Go play baseball or go play lacrosse or
But
whatever it is.
isn't the rushing it all around you on all sides?
Yeah, I think when you take the big picture is these kids are like, again, what I'm dealing with is the kids are so young, and everyone grows and develops at like different like stages. Like the kid that's the best 7-year-old probably isn't going to be the best 10-year-old. The kid that's the best 10-year-old probably not going to be the best 15-year-old. And I even, and even at that age, that's when I sort of can remember some of the guys that I played with. Like the kids that are the best 15-year-olds aren't going to be the best 17-year-olds. Like I distinctly remember doing 15, 16, 17 Mass Festival, before they changed sort of the rules where I used to play like on your state. Massachusetts obviously was Massachusetts. And, the game hadn't fully spread to, the Southeast and different areas. So it was still a traditional, like that, like when I was 17, I think we lost in there were 10 teams. We lost in like the gold medal game of like the festival to like Michigan. So it was Massachusetts and Michigan. And I remember when I was 15, I was like maybe middle of the pack on that team. And then by the time I was 17, I think that tournament, I was one of the leading scorers, made the all tournament team. And
You were a goal scorer.
I scored, yeah.
You scored a lot of goals.
I
And there's a dearth of people like you in coaching. At least for what I've seen, it's a lot of defensemen behind the bench. I don't know why.
I don't know. I mean, I could score goals in the sense where I knew how to get to the front of the net. I was good around the net. I sort of had like a knack for understanding where the goalie was. Like, what of the many things that kept me from playing in the NHL was like I didn't have like as I got up, I just was not one of those guys, and there were not a ton of them, which is why in that era there wasn't as many. I mean, I'd look at the numbers, as many guys coming out of like Hockey East to the NHL as there are today, but like I was not that goal scorer to get the puck in the slot and it's under the bar. I think I look back at my stats. I think I scored anywhere every year at BU like 12, 13, 14 goals. There might have been a couple where I might have like really ripped one, but a lot of it was like getting to the front of the net, tipping pucks, like finding rebound.
Dirty goal's a goal.
Yeah, no, and again, when I was in high school, like I scored them any which way. I scored, pretty healthy amount there too.
I'm of two minds because on the one hand, if it's free play, then you let the kids find their passion and it happens naturally, right? And I think that's a really good thing. But the challenge is there's not a lot of free play around, right? And then on the other hand, it's like, wow, these kids have so many resources that we didn't have growing up. And there's just so much more sophistication about how to break down the game and so many more tools and so much more knowledge and such a better idea how all the different pieces fit together and then how to pull out different components of it and work on them and then bring it back together to get the whole machine spinning better, right? And so on the one hand, I think I yearn as a dad for less structure, and because actually that'll lead to better development and on a more healthy natural path, right? And then on the other, it's like, well, there's so many tools here and there's so much you could do and you just want to get kind of surgical about it and like turn up the flame, right? And I know listen to the kid, right? But for me, it's a little confusing because the kids aren't equipped to fight off the dopamine, right? And so if you listen to the kid's just going to be glued to the phone, right? But then when the kid's out there, granted, listen to the kid. Like if you try to get the kid out there and they're like, I really don't like this, their body language is such, they're not dialed in, they're not working hard, then that's one thing. But like, I look at my kids, for example, when the phone is there, they're on the phone, but when they're out there, tails wagging, dialed in, hardworking, two-way player, loves the game, right? But like needs a little nudge to remind them to like get the F away from the phone, right? So it's a struggle because then it's like, all right, so you get them away from the phone. And it's like, are you getting them away from the phone because they want to be away from the phone, or you getting them away from? But it's a drug, so I don't know. Like, no, and I know your kids are younger, but like, what do you think?
Even I joke around with my wife when I'm like growing up, I was like, obviously we had no phones, no internet, I joke with my wife. I'm like, my parents used to allow us to watch like 1 30-minute show a week when we were older. Like my kids are taking down 2 episodes of Bluey before school, like it's just a different, yeah, it's just a different time. I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I mean, I think we limit the best we can all that technology stuff. They got the boys their first set of rollerblades about a week ago. And, I'll be curious to see how much they use them outside.
Do you live on a street where you
we
can
live
do
at
it?
the end of like sort of right at the end of a cul-de-sac, so they could, I'll go out there and play with them sometimes too. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much they do that. But even in that sense, like for instance, like today they have like swim lessons, tennis lessons, and all right, by the afternoon, like all right, they're probably cooked from all that. Do they want to go play for 2 hours, play shoot hockey? I don't know. We'll see. Like I'll mention it to them, and 50-50 they bite.
My kid, when he gets back, he's at overnight camp, and when he gets back, he's got a pretty structured hockey summer with downtime and kid being a kid and golf and other stuff. But like, he's going to play a lot of hockey when he gets back. But for this month, there's no phones, and the only communication with him is handwritten letters, or we get these like AI tagged, they take a lot of pictures at camp. They send photographers around, and then you get pictures of your kid. And every day I'm getting pictures of it. Actually, both kids are at overnight camp, but the hockey kid, he's doing different stuff, and it's none of it. It's like all free play, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It warms my heart. It's like it like alleviates my guilt of being a crazy hockey dad. And I'm like, look, he's spreading his wings, free as a bird.
Yeah, there you go.
But I do wrestle, right? Because like even I don't know. I mean, you've got like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, but like he's got old clips in your head, like Mamba mentality. Like every rep that you do, that's 1 rep more than you could have done is like it compounds over time, right? And like the earlier you start, the more it compounds, right? And stuff like that. And then you have all these clips. Like every time you like open Instagram or something, like all you see are like everyone else's kids ripping shots and running with parachutes and like doing hill runs and playing in tournaments and flying all over the place and written up on scouting reports for the little Tweety boppers and stuff. And it's like I'm so behind.
I think it's like anything in life. Like I think you just gotta don't get FOMO. And I think that's easier, like, said than done.
Especially when the path's getting harder and harder,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, it's
Yeah.
really, there's just a lot of hockey players out there. And I mean, with that rule change that, where there's going to be even more Canadians playing college hockey around here. I mean, again, like you want to play at BU, you better be a first round pick. I mean, in any of those blue blood schools, but, there's still schools. And, I think a lot of it is like I played at BU. I had a great experience. My brother played Division III at Salve Regina, and he had a great experience. He made some lifelong friends there too. Like it isn't, there's a school for everyone. There's a hockey program for everyone if you love it. And I think it's just, going to be interesting how it all shakes out in the years to come for, again, you and I will be paying attention from a Massachusetts local standpoint, but yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, I want to talk through some other stuff I've been thinking about because I've been contemplating building a platform of some sort to really put the kid at the center of the development path, right? And I want to play the long game where I am not just helping them like scramble to like be part of the rat race and make that AAA team or something, but actually like set them up with good habits and a good development framework for the long term that might be focused on athletics but have applications far beyond athletics in life. And that's also how I'm trying to parent. Like I want my kids to be student with a capital S and athlete with a capital A and just reach their fullest form. But it's not like to get a scholarship or to play in the NHL or something like that. Like it's just to reach their fullest form. And like burnout is not their fullest form. Overuse injuries is not their fullest form. Hating the game is not their fullest form, right? So I'm just really sensitive to that. It's one of the reasons I'm leading with content before I build is that like I got to pressure test my own worldview because it's stuff I struggle with as a dad, right? But there's been this kind of evolution for me where like a few years ago it was like tournaments, gameplay, and then it's like, gosh, I feel like he's doing too many tournaments and not enough skills, right? And so then it was kind of like skill this, skill that, skill this, right? And then the skills are coming along, right? And then I've been talking to people like as I'm learning here, and some of the perspectives I'm getting are like, hey, like blind gameplay, especially if you're kind of like playing over your head or something like that, like that's not going to do anyone any good. And then more and more and more and more in skills, like you said, more isn't always better. But like if you start with video analysis and you look at what's happening in the games, and then you identify a few key things, not a ton, but just 2 or 3 high leverage things where it's like a high frequency thing in the game with a high failure rate, and there's just little tweaks you can do, you can actually be a lot smarter with how you focus those skills to get a lot bigger bang for your buck, where maybe you can actually do less but get more from a development standpoint. And I know, again, I know your kids are little, but you have such deep experience with the game. How are you thinking about development, and also like how does that scale with age, or said another way, how does it dial back with youth?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, back in my day, like I didn't really like in high school, like the games, like we had the games on tape, but it's not like we were reviewing them and breaking it down. So then I got to BU, we'd always be watching film, and I can only imagine how much more detailed the film was than it was like 25 years ago. And there were things that I would learn at 18, 19 by watching film that, some of these kids could have access to now. 10. Again, I don't know the age of like them like watching and fully understand what you're saying. Like my two boys who I watch a pretty good amount of hockey with, like they wouldn't like they'll watch a game with me and watch me be like point here or there and hey, that guy should be covering that guy, or like look where that stick is right there, or and I don't know the age, but something like that is a good way to teach kids like, hey, like it's great that you skated back to your net like 100 miles per hour. You worked hard, but you skated by the guy that ended up scoring the puck because as the kid got older, the player understands how to pull up and hit the late guy and score a goal. Even though I was watching the Stanley Cup finals, and with my 2 kids, I was like, hey, look at this goal right here. Connor McDavid, best player in the world, went to the wrong guy, right? Like, and the video doesn't lie, and it's a great teaching tool. And, the kids today will have access to it far earlier than people of my generation. And you just hope the people that are pointing out to them, like the things to do, like know what they're doing, and the kids are able to watch. And, I think one of the things too, even on that note, is how many kids like really do fully watch full hockey games today, or full bits and pieces, where because everything being consumed in those smaller clips. I think with my kids, we'll usually watch like a period a night, and like we'll go to games, and they're pretty good about watching a decent amount of hockey. They both enjoy watching it. And my daughter actually really enjoys watching it too. It was funny last year at one point. My boys were already in bed, and she had some activity she got home for, and she was calling for me. She's like, "Dad," and I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, "I need to get back to the Toronto game. I switched it to see the score of the Bruins game." I'm like, "Oh my God, you are my daughter."
Eh. As your kids get older, and I guess this answer might change, but how do you predict that you'll be in terms of your role in stewarding their athletic development?
I think for me with the hockey on the two of them, it's like, I think they know I didn't play in the NHL, but they know I played at BU, and they know that I played professionally. They know I love it, and there's probably a time where like I'm hopeful they're gonna come to me and like, "All right, Dad, I really want you to really like put your finger on me and really teach me how to play." And that's, but even with them now, it's like you can't I can't like grind them like they're 16-year-olds. And if like one of them's playing center and be like snapping at them to be like, "Hey, you got to be down low supporting your D. You're out at the blue line looking for a pass." Like I can start to like gently be like that's not how you play that position, right? And I think even like the kids I coach, my own kids, like as they start getting older, like I think it's my responsibility to start imparting some of that on them. But even at the young age, like, at 8, like I can't expect them to know something at 8 that I didn't learn until 18. But because of my experience, I want to make sure that I'm sharing that and sort of start putting that in their brain. Like this is how we play. And, you want to create players or where from 8 to however old when I'm done with them or I'm done coaching my kids, where like I've instilled to them like hockey concepts and skills that are like transferable, like all throughout their career, right? Like you don't want to see an 8-year-old that is a good player just because he's bigger, stronger, and better than everyone and scores a lot of goals because he can flip it from the blue line and no one else can flip it from the blue line yet, right? Like that's not a transferable goal. Like that's not a transferable play. You want to be preaching habits that that they have at 8 that they can still have at 18.
And I mean, I guess this is less of a hockey question and more of a philosophical parent one, but as a parent, how much of our role do you think is fostering love versus identifying love and fostering work ethic versus identifying areas where it doesn't feel like work and they just want to do it themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first got started, like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and started to like think about some of this, I'm like, at the end of the day, all we can do is like get them to the rink, right? Like just, and then they gotta like get out there and like learn to skate on their own and do it all on their own. Like I think as far as like fostering, creating a passion for it, like I take them, like I said, I live in Needham. Like probably the last 2 years, we went to watch like Rivers High School played 25 times, like 5 minutes from our house, fun to watch. We go to as many BU games as we can.
Season ticket holder over here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah. Behind the bench.
I
Right behind the
haven't,
bench.
I haven't
Yeah.
been sprung for the season tickets yet, just because again, my kids are now like last year. I brought my 5-year-old to a game, and in like the second period, he's like falling asleep. I'm like, I think just now I'm at the age where even the youngest, I don't have to worry about like a 7:30 game in the city. Not that I live far, but like I think things like that. And even last year, the two boys Eagles team, they got to play a 30-minute game at the Boston Garden before a Bruins game. I think I think one of the ways to build passion is to probably put them in situations where they're like, "Oh wow, this is cool," or "This is a lot of fun," or like, "This is a fun tournament." Like last year with my middle guy, his team had a tournament in Waterville Valley, so he and I went and stayed at a hotel for 3 nights and played a hockey tournament. And they played like floor hockey and spent time with the kids. Like I think things like that are fun, and just
I,
had building the passion of hopefully enjoying the sport.
I really want to revisit this conversation in 5 years because I think I think it gets more complicated as they get older. Yeah. Let's like put a marker
Okay,
on
you
this
think
conversation.
am I sounding way too rational?
No, I think I just think it's more glaringly obviously not the right thing to do to be putting that structure in place for the littlest guys, right? And I think as they get older, right? My oldest is 13, right? It is getting to be about that time to grind, right? And then the question is, well, who's steering the ship? But one way or another, for any kid that actually wants to make a go of it, it is time to grind, right? Yeah.
And
So.
yeah, I mean, even on that, I mean, my parents like never ever pushed. We got to do this. Like, you got to go do that. Like, you got to do this. You got to do that. Even my dad coach. The only time they ever really got on me is if they saw me maybe have like bad body language, or my dad coaching. Maybe I might have, I've always been extremely competitive, where I might have, had words with a referee. Like, he didn't enjoy when I did things like that, or, even after a game. I'm like, how did I play? They're like, well, you didn't really back check tonight, or feel like little like nuanced like things where it's like, all right, like you could have worked harder out there, but it was always like, you played hard, like good job. It was never it was never like, oh wow, like you scored like 4 goals. You could score 4 goals in a hockey game and not play well, and
You could do it in the state championship game and win 5-1.
I know I should have had 7 that night, but and even my parents were never like, oh, wow, you need to do this, this, and this if you want to play at BU. It was just something I was always like extremely passionate about. I mean, from the age 6 on, I wanted to play in the Beanpot. And, yeah, like but it wasn't like work to me, right? It wasn't like, oh, I need to be, I remember back when I was 15, like doing the USA Hockey satellite stuff, which was, I had a sense that it was going to be extremely important to show well there and get on some of those festival teams. It wasn't like, oh my God, I need to prep for this. It might have been like, all right, I just came from baseball. I'm going to go play hockey now and just get out there and play. It was never work. It was just like, I just loved it so much. Like, I never, ever considered it work. And even, when I look back now, like, even, post college, when I played 3 years professionally, probably my funnest part playing professionally was just all the off season work. It was awesome. I mean, I'd go to the gym for, I'd have a workout grill with buddies for like 2 hours. And then I probably would go,
That's this week too, right?
go skate for 2 hours. Like, that was,
Yeah.
And like,
You're still doing that, right?
Like working out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll make sure I hit my 10,000 steps today is pretty much the goal.
For me, it's the sleep score on my Whoop. I'm trying to beat my record.
There you go.
What percentage of these AAA kids do you think would say the same, that it never feels like work? Because I had an IMG Academy, I was going to say sports psychologist, but their title's been changed to mental performance consultant on the show. But he was saying that there is a big disparity between what the parent thinks the kid's motivation is and what the kid tells him their motivation is when the parent's not in the room.
I can only, yeah. I mean, and even I even like someone like me who kind of grew up with like parents that weren't really like and eventually becomes like I could feel it, and it wasn't. It was probably maybe midway through BU or at BU, and then like obviously professionally after, where it's like, wow, this is a job. And I was even joking around with one of my buddies that I played with at BU like a couple weeks ago. Like, he and I had a similar experience where like neither played in the NHL and played a couple of years after in like the East Coast League. And I'm like, yeah, I was burnt out. I mean, I was 26, right? And like I was 26 and I was like cooked. Like, I mean, a lot of it was like, I had concussions, like I had a bad back. I hadn't played a game pain-free in years, but like I was burnt out. And again, I don't know what it looks like with a lot of these kids or what it looks like when you're 14, 15, but you don't want to burn them out before you get to 14, 15. Because as you just said, that's when you really, if you're into this, like that's when it feels like you gotta put the work in.
It's so tricky though, because like, I mean, I love to build companies and I love sports, and I spent 8 or 9 years back in the day building a sports technology company, and like combined all my passions, and I did it for the love, and halfway through I was effing miserable. And yeah, and I was just like, I was like getting up every day wearing a lead suit and like hated my days, right? And but yet it's like, don't take this away from me. This is what I love, right? And so it's like, I mean, there's always going to be parts of that on the journey, and I think working towards mastery in anything, that's the case. And I mean, I even wrestle with that now. It's like I'm sitting here recording this from Vermont, and it's like, it's beautiful out there. It's a beautiful day. Like, why am I not out like on a stand-up paddleboard or on a trail run or mountain biking or sitting at the brewery or like doing anything, taking advantage of this? Why? Because I'm trying to build something.
Yeah.
Why am I trying to build something? Right. And I think it's the same for the kids. And it's hard because on the one hand, it's like you want to set your kids up for success in life. And I actually like, it feels like our kids are going to have to work harder just to get to par from what we did. Right. And so you want to instill that work ethic because you want your kids to be successful and provide for their families and things like that. But on the other hand, it's like you want your kids to enjoy life and you don't want to accidentally pass on your own demons to them. And like, I don't know. I struggle with that all the time.
Yeah, I got plenty of demons, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that is, one of the many great things about hockey is like it really does teach like work ethic. Like you gotta show up, you gotta work hard. There are other people that are counting on you. And like anything in life, it's like it's never just a straight arrow upwards. There's ups, there's downs, and I think if you're consistent with like effort, like you're going to be fine.
Well, Brian, I guess speak to all the players who might be listening or sports parents who might be listening. What advice do you have for them and what takeaways do you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I would say I've done the last couple of years like a lot of one. It's this period where your kids are young, and even like me, I'm like fortunate enough to be coaching my kids, like fortunate enough to have played at a level where like I'm afforded the opportunity to coach them. I think just enjoy the moment. It goes quick. I mean, that's what I've started to really like think about when I look back at my own career. I mean, even there were numerous times last year where my younger guy would come practice with my middle guys team. So all year I'd be like, wow, this is pretty cool. I get to drive both boys to practice. Next year, who knows like how many practices of the older ones the younger one will attend to because it's his own team, but then they're also on the same Nita Mike team. Like they might never be on another team together. And even I think it's just enjoy the process, enjoy the moment. They're not this young forever. They're not at this stage forever. It's only a moment in time. And even me, I look back at my career and like I wanted to play at BU so bad. Like I wanted to play in the NHL so bad. There were times that I just didn't always enjoy like the moment. Like even when I was at like St. John Shrewsbury, it was an amazing experience. My senior year, we won the state championship. But even then, I was always so like, I want to play at BU, like I want to play in Hockey East, I want to play in the NHL. Like I absolutely 100% like enjoyed my time there. But like up until my senior year there was every year I'm like, all right, like, am I gonna go to the like I had chances to go to the USHL? Like I could have went to not too many prep schools because I don't know if they wanted me in there academically. Like I could have the one that I still sometimes always look back at and chuckle that I didn't do it was I made the U.S. national team the first year of Ann Arbor and I didn't do it. And
You could have played with Pat. Was he in the same class?
yeah, Pat and I are both 1980s. It was actually funny that Select 17 all tournament team that I made, me and him, he made it as well. He and I, so I've known Pat for well before BU. But like if I did the U.S. national team, I wouldn't have had the experience of winning a state championship my senior year in high school. And I think I think all of these are just experiences, and everyone's path's different. And I think just sort of slow down and then enjoy the moment, which is 8-year-old hockey, 10-year-old hockey, like 7-year-old hockey. Enjoy it because, it's just a moment in time.
Well, have you ever seen these clips on social media where it's like someone like take a picture of every day and then it's like a flip book where like at the end of the year it's like here's my year in review.
And it's just yeah.
I almost want to set like an annual reminder to do another recording with you every year for the next 10 years.
But let's be serious. Neither of us can hide from each other because of our mutual friend brother.
It is a good way. I mean, we started by roasting Josh, and maybe it's a fitting way to end is by roasting Josh yet again. So, Josh, I know you're listening to this. We love you.
Yeah, Josh. Maybe next time we'll have Josh join.
Yeah, he can moderate.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, there you go.
So, Brian, well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I mean, it's fascinating to sort through this stuff. Not easy answers. I don't know if there is a right answer, but I mean, the point of this show is not necessarily to find the right answer, but it's just to help inform my worldview and also help inform listeners' worldviews so that everyone can kind of have a more informed worldview as they're sorting through these topics. Because it's not easy, it's not obvious, and everyone's path is different.
Yeah, no, I think one, as you said, like everyone's path is different. There is no answer. And I think at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to do the best for their kids. And, I think if someone does more or less than me or somebody else, it's because like what's best for their kid. Everyone knows their own kid, and everyone, is just trying to give their kid as much as they can and as much of an opportunity to pursue whatever dreams it is they have.
And you can't fault them for that.
No, absolutely.
All right, Brian, thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Next. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and you haven't already, you can subscribe from your favorite podcast player, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or any of the others. We also send a newsletter every week on the journey itself, the new content that we publish, the questions that we're wrestling with, how the platform itself is coming along that we're planning to build for player development, and where we could use some help. And you can find that at thenextnext.substack.com. Thanks a lot, and see you soon.